Have you ever been punished for doing your job too well? I was. 1 month, I was the quiet hero of the finance team, the one who fixed formulas, balanced budgets, and kept our company out of trouble. The next, I was stripped of my title by a woman who thought family bloodline equaled competence. Her name was Charlotte Davenport, the CFO's daughter. To her, authority was inherited, not earned. I learned that lesson the hard way. Humiliation by email, whispered pity in hallways, and the echo of team alignment as my career crumbled. But you can't fake arithmetic forever. Numbers remember, and they don't play favorites. So when the annual report went live and every carefully hidden lie she'd baked into her shiny spreadsheets started bleeding through the formulas, all I had to do was watch. She burned her own ladder. And the best part? She handed me the match. If you're new here, welcome to the place where real office justice gets served fresh every day. Hit that subscribe button and make sure your notifications are on, because we upload brand new true office revenge stories daily. Each one isn't just entertainment. It's a lesson in patience, planning, and poetic payback. Now grab your coffee, settle in, and let's dive into today's story. I used to love mornings at headquarters. The buzz of keyboards before sunrise, the smell of overbrewed coffee, and the faint hum of the copy machine exhaling life into reports. I was 34, senior financial analyst, and the kind of woman who found calm in cells that calculated cleanly. Numbers were my language. They made sense when people didn't. That illusion shattered the day Charlotte walked in wearing red designer heels and an ego that could barely fit through the glass doors. She introduced herself at our Monday briefing. "Hi team, I'm Charlotte Davenport, freshly back from Wharton. Dad's excited for me to modernize our processes." Translation, she was here to climb fast, and the rest of us were rungs. Up close, she was dazzling. Sharp jawline, perfect lipstick, confidence rehearsed. She smiled often, but listened rarely. Within hours, she'd renamed the conference folder Vision Reboot. Within a week, she'd scheduled what she called collaboration huddles, which were basically solo performances where she brainstormed out loud and asked us to build on her brilliance. I kept my head down and did what I always did: make numbers tell honest stories. Our department handled procurement analytics, tracking all vendor costs, contracts, savings. Dry, yes, but essential. By mid-quarter, she was my direct supervisor. I didn't protest. I'd been managed by worse. Men who forgot my name in meetings, women who resented competence. I assumed she'd learn. Then one Thursday evening, she peeked over my cubicle wall, perfume first. "Hey, Elena," she said, twirling her lanyard. "We've got the quarterly briefing Tuesday. You're magic with data visualization, right?" "I can make it clear enough that even the board CFOs get it." "Perfect. I'll send you my outline. Make it sparkle." I stayed 3 extra nights, crunching 12 months of supplier spend, trimming redundant contracts, and designing visuals even a daydreaming executive could understand. My coffee ratio went from 1 cup to 4, but I smiled the entire time. This was my craft. When Tuesday came, I stood in the back of the executive suite with 15 other analysts. Charlotte was front and center beneath the projector, clicking through my charts. She spoke confidently, almost convincingly, about the cost savings initiative she had conceptualized. Each graph I'd built glowed behind her name. When the CFO plotted, pride battled nausea in my chest. Afterward, he shook her hand and said, "Impressive work, sweetheart." Then turned to me. "Keep supporting her like this, Elena. Great teamwork." "Of course," I whispered, because what else could I say? The email arrived 48 hours later. Subject: position adjustment, departmental restructuring. 2 lines in corporate monotone. Effective immediately, you'll transition from senior financial analyst to data compliance specialist. Compensation unchanged. New reporting structure attached. No warning, no meeting, no thank you. I opened the attachment. My new supervisor, Charlotte Davenport. I walked straight to her office. Her glass door reflected the skyline, cold and gleaming. She didn't even stand when I entered. "Charlotte," I said evenly, "why was I demoted?" "Oh, not demoted," she chirped. "Realigned. Leadership felt you'd thrive focusing on details. You're precise, but not strategic." "So strategic means letting other people take credit?" Her eyebrows lifted. "Elena, I'm sensing hostility. I'm sensing theft." She smiled, slow, like shark. "Careful, dear. Tone determines trajectory." My jaw ached from restraint. "You humiliated me after stealing my work." "I showcased it," she corrected softly. "And this attitude is exactly why your new title fits better." That night, I typed a resignation letter, then deleted it, because quitting felt like letting her rewrite my story again. Days blurred into each other. The hum of fluorescent lights grew crueler. Coworkers avoided my eyes. One, an older accountant named Mara, whispered in the break room, "It's not you. Everyone knows she's impossible, but she's protected." Protected was an understatement. She was the CFO's heartbeat, the family's corporate royalty. She paraded that bloodline daily. Dad says I'm future COO material. Dad thinks I bring fresh perspective. Dad loves when I take initiative. I kept silent, compiling receipts, updating logs, documenting every change she ordered. My new duties limited authority, but expanded access. I handled every raw ledger before her edits. The first time I noticed a difference, it was small, a 5% variance in a vendor reconciliation file. I checked formulas. Someone had replaced a function with a typed number. Manual override. I ran a quick audit. 10 files later, I realized the pattern. Small optimisms turning mild losses into modest gains. Always in her jurisdiction, always signed by her login. Maybe it was incompetence, maybe deliberate. Either way, my fingerprints were on the drafts. At 2 a.m. that night, I stared at the ceiling, heart drumming over spreadsheets in my mind. If this blew up, she'd build a scapegoat out of my silence. Leela, my older sister and roommate, found me pacing the kitchen. Work again? She demoted me to control me. Then stop letting her. I laughed dryly. In a company this political? Yeah, sure. Keep your receipts, Ellie. That's what Mom always said, right? Receipts don't lie. Receipts don't lie. And neither did data. So I began collecting. Every morning before editing Charlotte's version, I saved my original file to a hidden drive labeled innocuously, Vendor Training Materials. Each night, I exported audit trails listing user changes. If I went down, I'd go down armed. But somewhere under the adrenaline crouched exhaustion, long nights, clenched jaw, a stomach that forgot hunger and remembered dread. I knew enough to ruin her, but timing was everything. Expose her too early, and the CFO would bury me with her. Wait long enough, and the numbers themselves would shout. Then came her next directive. "Elena," she said one Friday morning, "I'm fast-tracking the annual report. We'll deliver ahead of schedule. Efficiency leads to recognition." Recognition. That word tasted bitter now. "Everything by end of quarter," she continued, tapping nails against glass. "No need to involve my father yet. He trusts me completely." She smiled, that glacial MBA fresh smile. I smiled back, equally polished. Understood. Behind my ribs, something old and quiet, dignity maybe, murmured, "Not forever." That night, I organized files alphabetically under dates, embedded checksum formulas, and exported duplicate copies labeled Archive Pre-Edit. I didn't know when, but I knew this. Sooner or later, the math would open its mouth, and when it did, her lies would sing louder than I ever could. The weeks after my demotion stretched and warped time until every workday felt like a bad dream replayed at half speed. The overhead lights hummed like interrogation lamps. The air smelled faintly of burnt coffee and cardboard printer paper. I used to love this office, the quiet rhythm of logic and order, the satisfaction of reconciling numbers that behaved. Now everything sounded wrong. My desk had been moved behind a huge filing cabinet, the unofficial graveyard of forgotten employees. The copier next to me coughed every 3 minutes, puffing toner that smelled like regret. The first few days, colleagues offered awkward small talk. Then, silence replaced sympathy. People in corporate spaces can smell danger the way sharks smell blood. They swim the other way. I didn't blame them. Daughter of the CFO, power like an invisible shield. I became contagious by association. Charlotte loved performing generosity. At least twice a day, she stopped by my corner, draped in confidence and expensive perfume. Her voice carried just far enough for the room to overhear. "Elena, you doing okay down here? I hope you don't feel sidelined." She'd tilt her head, all honey and venom. I would smile and answer, "All good, thanks." She'd nod once, satisfied with the public optics, then disappear back into her glossy office. Every step of her heels felt like punctuation at the end of an insult. My new tasks were drudgery, verifying petty cash receipts and double-checking supplier forms. I wasn't trusted with analysis anymore, but small work teaches patience. Between the drifts of expenses, I saw things others didn't bother to notice. Little changes on lines that shouldn't change. A 5% adjustment here, a mysterious saving column there. Always tiny enough to skip attention, always improving her department's success rate. The numbers started to smell false. I learned her habits. She edited most reports late evenings after others left. I stayed later. Her shadow would flicker through the glass walls while I sat quietly near the copier, pretending to finish an email. When she finally left, I copied original files into a hidden directory buried inside training archives, a harmless-looking folder called Old Vendor Learning. I told myself it wasn't vengeance. It was documentation. Sleep dissolved. Spreadsheets invaded dreams. Cells whispering that something didn't add up. Some nights I jolted awake, certain I'd missed a formula, heart pounding against ribs like a warning bell. My sister Leela noticed the circles under my eyes. "You look haunted," she said over soup. "She's not worth an ulcer." I wanted to tell her it wasn't about worth. It was about not letting someone turn my competence into her camouflage. Weeks blended into fiscal deadlines. Charlotte boasted to anyone who would listen that our figures were historic. She used that word constantly. Historic. The staff clapped politely. I stared at my keyboard and felt my stomach twist. Historic indeed when fiction overtakes fact. The first real crack arrived by accident. A polite external auditor named Raj sent me an email meant for the project preparer. He had spotted an anomaly in one of the quarterly summaries and wanted to confirm source data. I reread it twice, realizing he'd bypassed Charlotte entirely. Maybe luck, maybe instinct. My fingers hovered over the keyboard for a full minute before I answered, steady as I could, "Please see the version history tab for unaltered entries before managerial revisions." That line looked harmless on screen, but tasted like fire in my throat. When I hit send, adrenaline flooded my veins. 2 hours later, she appeared beside my chair so suddenly that I almost spilled my coffee. Her smile strained at the edges. "Darling, auditors are confused. You didn't copy me on their email?" I turned in my chair. "They ask directly about figures. Policy says I respond to clarify data integrity." For a fraction of a second, her eyes lost their focus, panic winking through the gloss. "Next time, CC me," she said lightly, and stormed off. After that, she watched me differently. Every conversation felt like chess and interrogation at once. "How's compliance?" "Busy," I'd answer. "Everything aligned?" Let her hear what she wanted. The smarter predator gets comfortable before the trap shuts. More questions came from Raj's team, worded neutrally but carrying quiet suspicion. Charlotte grew jumpy, her laughter turning too sharp, her memos full of motivational slogans. She declared another team spirit breakfast, where she praised herself between bites of avocado toast. I listened, biting my tongue until I tasted iron, and thought of the hidden folder glowing quietly in my laptop, proof piling up like snowdrifts behind glass doors. One afternoon, through thin walls, I heard her on the phone. "Dad, they're nitpicking formulas. Yes, I made cosmetic corrections. No, it's not fraud. Please don't escalate." Her voice cracked halfway through escalate. When she emerged to refill her coffee, her eyes darted around as if the walls had repeated her. Maybe they had. Offices remember everything. Sleep vanished completely. I left the lamp on as I worked at home, isolating every version she touched. Each night I refined my collection, labeling and cross-referencing so neatly that any outsider could trace her handprints cell by cell. My fear hardened into calm focus. Revenge wasn't a flame anymore. It was a ledger balancing itself. By the time March came, rumble of audit activity was unmistakable. Emails flew with subject lines like clarification request and data consistency check. Charlotte forced smiles, but the makeup of composure peeled by the hour. At meetings, she flinched whenever someone said accuracy. Once, during a presentation, her voice cracked mid-sentence and she excused herself, pretending to take a call. We all heard the tremor in her heels when she walked out. Late one night, only our floor's emergency lights glowing, I updated my private log, the timeline of her edits. I realized I'd reached 32 documented manipulations. The total fabricated profit now passed $500,000. My pulse steadied instead of spiking. Proof gives strange peace. I whispered to the screen, "You did this to yourself." Eventually, even the gossipers went silent. Something bigger was brewing, and everyone sensed it. Raja's emails turned formal, CCing legal addresses. The CFO started arriving early, frowning through glass conference doors while Charlotte's voice lifted in frantic explanations. I kept my head down, almost invisible, the quiet technician no one remembered until they needed clarity. And then came the summons, an internal audit review, attendance mandatory. My name appeared last on the list, right under hers. I stared at it until the letters blurred. Fear and satisfaction tangled somewhere between chest and spine. All my late nights, my secrecy, my patience, each moment was marching toward this. That evening, I shut down my laptop carefully, pressing my palms against its cool surface to release the tremor in my hands. I looked at my reflection in the dark screen, tired eyes, but steady now. I whispered, "You waited long enough." The city outside blinked in pale office blue glow. Tomorrow, silence would break. I slept that night for the first time in months, not long, but deep. The kind of sleep that comes when you finally stop fearing the storm because you know you built the shelter yourself. When morning came, the elevator ride felt slower. In the hallway, air buzzed with nerves. Executives whispered, HR reps clutched folders, and through the glass I saw Charlotte pacing like a trapped deer, immaculate hair trembling as she spoke into her phone. My stomach didn't knot this time, it settled. The clock read 10:29. In 1 minute, everything would unspool. I tightened the cuffs of my jacket, squared my shoulders, and thought, let the numbers speak. The conference room looked harmless at first glance. Just polished cherry wood, glass walls, a carafe of water slowly fogging at the base, but it felt like walking into a courtroom dressed as routine. The blinds had been drawn halfway, slicing daylight into thin silver bars. The long table gleamed like an autopsy slab. Names were already tented in front of seats. The auditors, the company lawyer, the CFO at the head, Charlotte beside him, and at the very end, a neat folded card that read, Elena Morales, financial analyst, compliance. They'd left out demoted. Small mercy. Nobody spoke as the door clicked shut. I sat down, spine rigid, hands on my knees to hide the tremor. My pulse buzzed in my ears like trapped electricity. Raj, the young external auditor with the calm eyes, began first. "We appreciate the department's cooperation," he said. His politeness was surgical. He slid a printout toward the CFO. "We've identified a pattern of manual input on revenue sheets inconsistent with policy SOP 14A. Out of 132 files, we found 27 edits replacing formulas with hard numbers." The CFO frowned, confusion blooming across his otherwise impassive face. "Manual input?" Charlotte jumped in. "Too fast, too bright. Formatting differences. Our templates are old. I cleaned them to match new branding." Legal nodded once, expression blank. "We'll clarify intent shortly. Can we display the revision logs, please?" A projector hummed. On the wall appeared a grid of file names, timestamps, usernames. Under User ID, every alteration shimmered with the tag C.Davenport. My throat went dry despite knowing this moment would come. There it was, her fingerprint catalog. Raj zoomed in on one sheet. "As you can see, these modifications create an artificial uplift of approximately 2.7%. Individually minor, collectively significant." Charlotte's chair made a tiny squeal as she turned toward her father. "This is exaggerated. Elena helped aggregate those numbers. She can explain." Every eye pivoted to me. I heard my heart beat louder than the ventilation. I inhaled once, slow. "I prepared the raw data," I said quietly. "My versions are archived in compliance backups. They contain full formula history. Nothing was manually typed until after executive revisions." "Do you have those backups, Ms. Morales?" Legal's tone was dispassionate, but a keen edge hid under it. "Yes, they're dated and checksum verified. IT can confirm if needed." The CFO leaned forward, voice carefully neutral. "Show us." I didn't trust the network, so I'd brought a private drive. With steady fingers, I set it on the table and opened the first file. The projector switched views. 2 identical spreadsheets side by side. Mine on the left, hers on the right. In mine, formulas glowed green. In hers, pale numbers sat dead and static. For a heartbeat, nobody breathed. Then Raj said, almost gently, "That's the distinction, sir. Automated versus overwritten." The older man rubbed his temple, jaw working. "Charlotte, please tell me you can justify this." She let out a short laugh, brittle as breaking ice. "Dad, are you seriously questioning me in front of—" "Answer," he snapped. It wasn't anger toward me. It was the bewildered fury of a parent realizing nepotism had backfired. Her voice rose an octave. "It's nothing. I just fixed rounding." "It's fraud," I said, before deciding whether to. The word came out calm, almost kind. Even muffled, it hit like thunder. The room stilled. The lawyer's pen stopped moving. Through the glass, I saw silhouettes of curious coworkers pretending not to look. Raj cleared his throat. "Pending confirmation, these misstatements could meet the threshold of material misrepresentation." The CFO pushed back his chair abruptly. "I need 10 minutes." He laughed without looking at anyone, phone already in hand. Charlotte sat frozen, hands clenched white around her folder. For the first time since I'd met her, there was no charisma, only panic clawing to surface. When the meeting recessed, I stepped into the hallway. The carpet muffled my steps, but inside my skull, drums pounded. Mara intercepted me near the vending machine. She whispered, "They've just pulled the CFO into legal. Is it true?" I didn't answer, just looked at her for a second. The truth was too heavy to circulate casually. Back in the conference room 15 minutes later, corporate HR had joined. The CFO re-entered behind them, his face gray. He sat, folded his hands, and addressed the group. "Effective immediately, Charlotte Davenport is on administrative leave pending investigation. Her responsibilities will be reassigned to interim management." Pause. That interim management will be Miss Morales until further notice. The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear the projector cooling. Charlotte laughed again, higher, desperate. "You're promoting the woman who sabotaged me?" Her father whispered something I'll never forget. "Elena didn't sabotage you. She saved this company from a scandal." She knocked over her chair as she stood. For one absurd instant, I felt pity, only brief, instantly smothered by memory of every deliberate cut she delivered under polite tone. Then she left, door clicking behind her, like a period ending a chapter. The meeting disbanded slowly, each attendee avoiding my eyes as if I were radioactive. Raj lingered, giving me a small nod, acknowledgement, not celebration. He said, "Document discipline like yours is rare. Keep it that way." When I finally returned to my desk, the copier hummed again beside me, oblivious. The same corner smelled of toner and dust, but it no longer felt like exile. It felt like ground reclaimed. My plants drooped, neglected. I touched a leaf and whispered, "Almost done." The hour crawled. Emails multiplied. Urgent, department transition, media hold statement, internal audit wrap-up. Each one stamped the reality deeper. By 5 o'clock, word had spread through the entire floor. Conversations paused when I passed. Some offered tentative congratulations, others looked guilty for past silence. Both I accepted with a nod. At 6, I logged off, packed my bag, and lingered just long enough to glance at Charlotte's empty office. Someone had already cleared her desk items into boxes. Her nameplate leaned crooked against the monitor. The reflection on the glass caught my face, tired, incredulous, quietly alive. I took the elevator alone. The city below blinked with office lights turning off one by one. For the first time, the world felt balanced. That night, at home, Leela poured wine while I recounted everything in disbelief. When I finished, she leaned back, smirking. So the numbers spoke after all. They screamed, and she heard them. Sleep came easily, but not dreamless. Somewhere between exhaustion and peace, I saw rows of clean cells aligning, columns straightening like soldiers after battle. Justice didn't roar, it tallied quietly. Morning brought a brief panic. Maybe it was all a fevered fantasy. Maybe by now someone had revoked the decision overnight. But as soon as I logged in, a calendar notification blinked. Interim department head meeting, 9 a.m. Part of me wanted to laugh, part of me wanted to cry. Neither felt efficient. When I opened the new department email thread, the CFO's message sat pinned at the top. Short, professional. "Thank you for exemplifying integrity during a challenging review. Our company values diligence above appearance." Beneath it, a note from Raj. "Final audit complete. Findings verified. Clean file attached." Attached. My name listed under Data Integrity Verification. I stared at those words until they blurred. Months of humiliation condensed into 4 syllables. Data integrity. 2 words Charlotte never understood. 2 words that became my quiet victory parade. I closed my inbox, exhaled, and let my shoulders drop. Not triumph exactly, just balance restored. Entry on the right side of the ledger at last. Then I smiled, a small genuine thing, and whispered, "Numbers don't lie, remember?" Outside, the sun flashed against glass towers like applause muted by distance. The next few days felt like walking through aftershocks. The earthquake had already happened, walls still trembled from the memory. Charlotte's name disappeared from distribution lists, her office stripped bare overnight. HR sent an email about internal transitions, coded in euphemism, thick enough to choke. But even polished language can't hide scandal. Everyone knew. People stopped me in the hallway with that peculiar blend of curiosity and guilt. "Hey, Elena, heard you're taking over the portfolio. Congratulations." I smiled politely, knowing what they wanted was gossip, not justice, but I gave them nothing. Part of revenge is restraint. Silence rattles louder than confession. My new temporary office was functional. No panoramic view, no fancy coffee machine, just 4 walls and a tired chair. Perfect. I didn't want prestige. I wanted peace. Yet the adrenaline from months of defense hadn't vanished. Even when calm returned, my body stayed wired, expecting rumors to mutate into retaliation. Trauma lingers under professionalism like static beneath jazz. Late one evening, I stood by the window, phone buzzing with unread messages from journalists, sniffing for insider statements. The CFO had asked us, begged us, not to speak publicly until legal finished its review. I agreed without hesitation. I didn't need to elaborate. The numbers had already. Still, part of me remembered her words the day she demoted me. Attitude affects advancement. Now look whose attitude rewrote their resume. Rumor claimed Charlotte had left the country for wellness consulting abroad. Another said she was repurposing her career. I pictured her trying to teach others synergy while her own spreadsheets sat in evidence folders marked material misrepresentation. Karma is thorough. She audits too. The workload that followed was mountainous, untangling months of her cosmetic fixes, explaining to investors why last quarter's savings were illusions. I led the rebuild my way. Transparent lines, no gloss, no fiscal storytelling. When the CFO visited my office, he looked 10 years older. "Miss Morales," he said quietly, "I owe you an apology for trusting, well, for underestimating integrity when it was right in front of me." I answered softly, "It happens. Numbers don't flatter anyone, not even family." He nodded, weary. "If there's ever a time you feel this company doesn't deserve you, tell me first." When he left, relief didn't come the way I imagined. It crept slowly, cautious, like light filtering under a locked door. The anger that had fueled me for months cracked apart, leaving behind something quieter but heavier: exhaustion and, strangely, empathy. Despite everything, losing a career in front of your father must feel like drowning with the shore in sight. I didn't need to witness her punishment. I'd already felt her fear in that meeting, watched certainty crumble into panic. That image was final enough. A week later, corporate published the new annual report, my version, clean, balanced, every figure defensible. Toward the back, a small printed line appeared under acknowledgments for exemplary diligence in data compliance, EM. That one initial carried more satisfaction than her entire PowerPoint empire. I printed a copy for myself, tucked it into a drawer at home, and finally unplugged the external drive that had kept her deceit alive in my system. It felt good hearing the tiny click as metal disconnected. Proof preserved externally, peace restored internally. Leela brought takeout that night, raising a glass. "To poetic accounting," she joked. I laughed hard for the first time in months, laughter that sounded foreign but clean. "Seriously though," she said softer, "was it worth it? The sleepless nights, the fear?" I thought about how close despair and dignity often sit, sharing a cubicle. "Yes," I said at last, "because I didn't change to beat her. I stayed the same." She nodded, clinking her glass against mine. "That's rarer than any bonus." I slept a full 8 hours that night without numbers chasing me. No phantom spreadsheets, no whispering cells. Just quiet. Weeks passed, and calm finally settled into routine. The copier still coughed beside my office. The river glittered through the east-facing windows, and life resumed its ordinary tempo. But I carried myself differently now, shoulders looser, voice steadier. The fear that once defined me had calcified into certainty. Even when power ignores truth for a while, truth keeps counting. Sometimes justice looks like courtrooms and headlines. Sometimes it's subtler. A fraudulent formula corrected. A reputation rewritten in footnotes. A survivor reclaiming her name on the final report. My revenge had neither fireworks nor shouting, only balance quietly restored. I found that far more satisfying. Before leaving one evening, I passed the copier where my ordeal had begun. Its hum still filled the corner. I set a single, sticky note on its side, half amused, half sentimental. Accuracy is integrity. Then I walked out. For good measure, I didn't look back. If that story hit home, don't forget to like this video. It tells the algorithm that justice stories matter. And if you're new here, subscribe and join our growing community where real-life office revenge meets powerful life lessons every single day. Share this with someone who's ever been underestimated at work. They'll feel every second of it. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply doing your job too well to erase. See you in the next story.